some really unbelievable efforts underway to try to stifle reporting about Hamas sympathizers, both locally and nationally. Let's get to it in our segment, Unbelievable. Boop. All right. So there have been a lot of what I would call pro-Hamas rallies in Seattle, and I just don't know how to characterize it any other way. And I do know that there's a difference between wanting to make sure that there isn't an innocent loss of life in Gaza versus people who actually support the actions of terrorists and who want to erase Israel as a state. What we're talking about is the latter. So Jonathan Choe, our fierce friend, independent journalist who works for Discovery Institute, he was down at one of these at Westlake Park, and he had done some reporting on it previously, but now he's resurfacing some of the video because he is now the subject, Jonathan Choe is, of a temporary order of protection from an individual who he encountered at one of these protests. So what I want to do is play a 1-minute 45 chunk of video that Jonathan Choe has posted in light of this being served at his home in Bellevue with this order of protection, because you're going to see how, and let me just play it, and you can make your own characterization. But the individual you'll hear at the beginning sort of shouting at him and trying to catch up with him, and then sort of following Jonathan, and as Jonathan tries to leave the area, that is the person who ultimately has served him with this protection order. So why don't you watch just this clip, and then we'll talk about it on the back end.
What's up, bro? Yeah, you're right. You know there's a kid right next to you? Just want to let you know there's a young child, all right? On the way. So much. There you go, John. What's up, dude? Nice shot. Thank you. Johnny, wait, come on. Hold up. Hi, buddy. What's my name, Johnny? Johnny, what's up, dude? Johnny Choe, I'm so glad you're here, bro.
Hey, you know you're touching me?
I'll give you one more warning.
Okay? Don't touch me again.
Johnny Choe, you're doing the thing again where like,
As long as you don't touch me, it's all good.
I didn't touch you, Joe. My sign's out. My sign's out, buddy. You touched me.
Nope, as long as the sign doesn't touch me.
Oh, you run this way, so you start running the cops. Oh, he's chasing me.
Are they going to trigger you? How's your trans agenda going? Yeah.
Are you doing the thing again where you're like, oh, run, Johnny's chasing me. I'm
Yep.
chased again. Oh,
Look at all the far left. Look at all the National Lawyers Guild people.
Guys, you saw it here first. Johnny Choe chased by the evil Antifa. You saw it here first, folks.
Trans ideology, baby. Trans ideology. You know, you go to Gaza, you get killed. You get killed in Gaza. Yep.
Johnny Choe and tracked by Trans Tifa, guys.
You get
Johnny
killed in
Choe
Gaza.
literally tracked by Trans Tifa. What? You saw it here first for everyone. It's ours to see.
If you went to
Johnny
Gaza,
Choe
you'd be
tracked by
killed.
Trans
You'd be killed in Gaza by the Muslims.
You know what? I would be killed. I would be killed.
Hey, thanks for like assaulting me now, bro.
Okay. So a few things. I will say there's some things Jonathan says in that video that I don't particularly agree with. I mean, so he had a previous encounter with this man whose name is Gabriel Jones at a, you remember when we did a story on 5599 and how there were some counter protesters who I believe broke the law, not when they protested us, but it was a different instance. Well, Jonathan Choe had an interaction with Gabriel Jones there. And so he brings up sort of the trans agenda. I just wish he wouldn't do that because I think it just kind of further, complicates and confuses the situation. He also was telling him you'd get murdered in Gaza by the Muslims, and I think that's unfair. I don't think Muslims by nature are murderous people. You could say you'd get murdered in Gaza by Hamas. Anyway, I just thought I would note that. But anyway, so Jonathan, covers this. We had shared some of his coverage on the show. Then he's home one day, sitting at home in Bellevue, and he gets served by the Bellevue Police Department with a temporary protection order and hearing notice from this guy, Gabriel Jones. And there's so much in this. So anyway, this Gabriel Jones writes his own narrative of what happened as justification for this temporary protection order, which also sets a hearing date of November 14th. It says, I was a part of a team that does security. So this is Gabriel Jones's words. I was a part of a team that does security at a protest first of all, a part of a team that does security? No, you're there to protect the protesters, and you're just trying to prevent people like Jonathan Choe from filming your utter hatred. I saw Mr. Choe, who was previously informed he was not welcome. Okay, you're at a public park. You don't have any authority to inform anyone that they're not welcome there. He was not welcome, and he was asked to leave. Again, you have no authority to ask someone to leave. Upon seeing him, I used my sign to block his camera and told him to leave. Again, you don't have any right to tell him to leave. With his consent, I followed him. What are you talking about with his? Why would Jonathan Choe give you consent to follow him? He just told you, he said, as long as you're not touching me, that's fine. Right. I don't know if that's consent, but he's basically saying, don't assault me. And Jonathan knows, because he's a journalist, that he can't prevent them from being there and trying to block their sign. I followed him away from the protest. During the walk, he said, if you were in Gaza, they would cut off your head. And then he goes, and said I was spreading violent trans ideology. His handwriting is so bad, it's hard to read. As we were walking, he suddenly stopped, and because I was right behind him, I stepped on his shoe. Because of this, he took my glasses off my face and ran away because I needed to see. I chased him to get my glasses back, after which he punched me in the face. Okay. So he's saying that's his version of events, and he's filing this order of protection. Now, I have Jonathan's response to those claims, but what I will tell you is, based off of seeing the video, here you have, again, this protester who is under the notion that he, as self-appointed security, can tell a member of the media to leave a public park, which is ridiculous. And we cut off a little bit at the beginning of the video, but he's the one seeking Jonathan Choe out. He is following Jonathan Choe around. At every juncture, Jonathan Choe is trying to film, and he's just trying to move away from this guy. And this guy is simply not allowing him to move away from him. And so Jonathan Choe says, because we reached out to him and said, hey, did you punch this guy in the face? Choe told us just a couple minutes ago via text, think about it. Someone is chasing you in a mob scene. With my back turned, Jones shoved me so hard from behind, I fell out of my shoes. I'm completely disoriented. My goal was to get out of there. Jones was hovering over me as I grabbed my shoe. I stopped recording, put my phone in my pocket, and I pushed him away and ran from the scene. I was defending myself. He calls it a punch. I shoved him away. I'll leave it at that. More will play out in court. Looking forward to the evidence he presents. And there were cops all around. So certainly if there's evidence of Jonathan punching him in the face rather than trying to get him to move back. But I think what this is really is weaponizing law enforcement to try to thwart Jonathan Choe's reporting. To say, so as this, so there's going to be a court hearing, this is just a temporary protection order. It doesn't, as it's written, like say Jonathan Choe has to stay 100 yards away, because that would be, devastating to his ability to report on any of this. This same protester is at, protests against what I said, 5599 and parental rights, and he's been at a variety of different things. So can you imagine if you have a judge who sympathizes with this protester because maybe of their political ideology, and they grant some sort of actual protection order that makes Jonathan Choe have to stay 500 feet or whatever it is away from essentially any protest, any left-wing protest in the city? I mean, that thwarts his reporting in a serious way. Based on what I've seen in this video, I think Jonathan Choe has more of a right to ask for an order of protection against this guy who was relentlessly pursuing him. And I actually think that this individual should be arrested for filing a false report. I think SPD, the second he ran to the back of Jonathan Choe, should put handcuffs on him. They were standing there. Jonathan Choe was trying to move away from the situation. He says he pushed him to get distance after that happened. But this is just one of the many ways, and this is, albeit a very creative way, indeed, to try to stifle the reporting of someone like Jonathan Choe, who is trying to point out your Hamas propaganda. And that's not all we're seeing. In fact, this Sunday on Sundays with Subscribers, Ari Hoffman is going to be, we're going to have a couple guests, but Ari Hoffman is going to be one of our guests who's Jewish, and he's a host over at KTTH, who's been exposing some of, mostly on college campuses, some of the Hamas sympathizers amongst faculty members. But one of the other things he recently pointed out is CARE, which is the Council on American Islamic Relations. They've put out these messages basically saying it's illegal to dox someone. So they look at people like Ari Hoffman, a member of the media, who is exposing some of these public employees who are spreading terrorist propaganda. And the Council on American Islamic Relations, their concern is protecting those people. They're saying basically that's against the law to dox someone in Washington state. So wanting to try to stifle Ari Hoffman's reporting on these public officials by suggesting what he's doing is against the law, which what he's doing is not against the law. And he's a member of the media, and he does have a lot of protections. So we're going to see more and more of this. We're going to see blatant attacks, sometimes legal maneuvering to try to stifle members of the media from exposing this hatred on our college campuses, from exposing this hatred in these leftist circles in Seattle. And I know that people like Jonathan Choe and Ari Hoffman are not going to back down, and we're going to have their back every step of the way. So I don't have to agree with every single tactic Jonathan Choe uses or everything he said. I pointed out a couple things in that video I wish he would have just left alone and not said. But I will absolutely defend his journalism, his right to produce it, his right to be at these protests. I will defend Ari Hoffman's right to expose public employees who are spreading hatred against Jewish people. And I really wish more members of the mainstream media in particular would do the same. We've talked about this before. It's really quite unbelievable the extent to which they stay silent. You know, when Jonathan Choe is being physically blocked from entering press conferences, when media offices and spokespeople who are paid with our money were working together behind the scenes to keep information from him. We spoke out about it because there but by the grace of God go I. If you don't defend Jonathan Choe, what happens if there's someone in office who doesn't like your reporting? Seattle Times, Crosscut, King 5, Como News, Cairo, Q13. And then this is happening to you. I guarantee that you're going to whine about it, and rightfully so. I guarantee that you're going to push back against it. So you all need to get together and see what's happening to Jonathan Choe, to people like Ari Hoffman. And you need to have a united front, even if you don't agree with them politically, because again, they're but by the grace of God. Go you.